All right, now we're excited for today's topic, your entrepreneur edge. With a panel of shocker rock stars, I'd like to welcome our MC, Jake Wayman from Wayman Consulting Group to the stage to kick us off.
All right. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it. Hey, give yourselves a round of applause for being here. This is a great group. I think this is a record number of people. Oh, awesome. It's awesome, y'all. For those that don't know me, my name is Jake Wayman. I wear a lot of hats in this community. One, my wife and I are the proud owners of Porn Theory Fitness studios here in Wichita. Also serve as an investment banker for a middle market investment bank out of Oklahoma City, doing development here in Wichita. Also work with my family's company, my dad Troy right here. He's a WGO alum too as well, Citywide Facility Solutions. They do a lot of great work in this community. So entrepreneurship is deep in my blood. So I love business ownership, I love small businesses, and I'm excited to have this panel up here. So let me invite all the panelists to come up here. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. So let's give a round of applause for the panelists to get up here.
Get on the stuff there.
As they're getting up here, like, feel free to rile them up, you know, clap, all the different things. Like, they're entrepreneurs, so they've been through it all, so it's all good. Well, they've seen a lot of these questions already, and they kind of know what I'm going to do with their introductions. And since we are in Luke's establishment, Luke's going to kick us off, and so do a quick intro, kind of your connection to Wichita State, and then I had the question is, like, what age did you feel like you were a true entrepreneur? So we'll let you kick it off.
Oh, it's more than just an introduction.
Well, whatever you want to do.
All right, sounds good. Hello, everybody. Luke Luttrell. I'm a Wichita State graduate, 2002, mechanical engineering. I am my wife and I both have 5 kids, and a father, youth sports coach. That's where I get a lot of joy out of life. And when I'm not on the court coaching them or at home, then I'm working in my businesses, and so I certainly love that. I'm involved in Next LED, Project Content, Wichita Sign Company, and Social Tap, to name the most important ones that I'm a part of. We'll maybe get into some of the other stuff later today, but I'm glad to see you guys here, and excited to share whatever I can to help people out. Sorry, when did it start?
What was the age you felt like you were
Right.
an entrepreneur?
It's a long story, but I'm going to say it happened when I was 8. I grew up in a small town in Nebraska, and I lived outside of the small town in Nebraska. There was a community college that had a golf course management program, and they let the community in the rural areas, just anyone could come play for free. And in the summers, when you're a bored kid, one of the things that you do is you try to find something to do. And so I went looking through the cornfields in the foresty area around the golf course looking for golf balls. One, because it was fun, but then I realized that the people that were coming out to play golf needed golf balls, so I started cleaning them up and selling them. So that started at about 8.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hey, my name is Christina Long. I'm a Wichita native and a Wichita State University graduate, class of 2003. Yes, any 2003s out there? Okay, I graduated from the Elliott School of Communications with a minor in ethnic studies. In terms of the work that I do, I'm so fortunate. I have a for-profit graphic design and communication services company, CML Collective, and then I also am the very proud president and CEO of Create Campaign. We have some Create campaigners in the house. Yes. So anything that I do is about community uplift. It is about helping make sure that we have pathways to economic opportunity and prosperity, whether it's on my for-profit side or my nonprofit side. As it relates to entrepreneurship, I was in the 2nd grade when I used to be bused for desegregation. And so my neighborhood is this neighborhood, and I got bused out 45 minutes away to OK Elementary on West Street. And so during that bus ride, when people had arts and crafts and things that they needed to do, I took my huge chief pad, for those of you all who are that age, and I would do art projects and sell them for a nickel. I didn't realize I was starting my hustle then. But ultimately, I did not realize that I was an entrepreneur until I actually became a client at the Kansas Small Business Development Center. I just knew I wanted to provide professional opportunities to those who need communication support. And so super grateful for KSBDC. Emeritus President Marcia Stevens is in the crowd. Entrepreneurship is a real deal, and I come to it untraditionally.
Good afternoon. My name is Charity Kennedy Cox, and I co-own and operate Cox Quality Remodeling with my husband Travis, who is over here. And my connection to WSU is I'm an alum, graduated from the College of Engineering in 2001 with an industrial engineering degree, and then came back to the graduate school and specifically the College of Education and went through the transition to teaching program. And I think, the newest of the entrepreneurs on this panel. I've only been in the entrepreneurial space for about 3 years full time. And I think I first considered myself to be a true entrepreneur, I'll underline the word true, at 47, which is the age that I am now. It's taken me a little while to embrace that, but definitely had entrepreneurial thinking clear back to young. And then it was really, I think the fire was lit when I was here at WSU as a student and experienced some of the legacy of entrepreneurship that's here. If you've ever walked into Devlin Hall, it's kind of like, oh, the entrepreneurial gods live here. I think that's all.
Hey everyone. I think I'm the only one that's not. I'm an honorary shocker. Okay, so
Still shocker.
still shocker. I actually did my undergraduate work at KU, and I got my master's from Harvard Business School. But Wichita's home, and all of our, a lot of my support is the university here. I actually have some of our scholars here, all of the scholars here at the Staples. Thank you. As far, when I've always been one of those kids that saves their money. And so I guess with 8 or 9, because we were always working. But I always had money, and my brothers and sisters didn't. So I'd loan them money. I learned that principle really, really early. But I think from a true entrepreneur standpoint, I think I bought my first business when I was 27 or so. That's the story. But glad to be here. What a wonderful crowd, and thank you, Wichita State, for it. And letting a non-alum speak here.
I'll still say you're still a shocker. You're still there. Yeah, absolutely. You're in Wichita. Well, let's get it started. I know since we are in Luke's establishment with a social tap, and outside of you selling golf balls, what motivated you to take the leap into true entrepreneurship?
Somewhere between selling golf balls and then moving to Wichita and then going to Wichita State and then leaving Wichita State, I actually got disconnected from that initial natural action. And when I took my first job outside of college here in town working for a custom electric sign company, I was definitely involved in all of the facets of the business, everything from sales to installation, service, accounting, all that stuff. So that's actually where I was learning everything about business. We were selling full color outdoor digital signs at that time, at the very beginning of that industry. So this was like 20 years ago. And when I was doing that, I was working with a company out of Los Angeles, and we were reselling that product here in Wichita. Through working in that relationship, that vendor relationship, I was understanding how not to service a customer, how not to service a product. And because I'm an engineer and I was actually doing service work on their product, I was learning how to build that product. And so whether it was selling golf balls or working in the restaurant industry in high school and college as a server, all of that stuff I just knew could be better, and I knew that I could build it. And so I didn't know exactly what that meant or what that looked like to actually become a business owner, but a few things fell into place that I'm lucky for, and started Next LED in 2011 when I was 31. And it was really just about doing something better and creating more value for the customers that I knew were purchasing these signs, not just here in Wichita, but now in Next LED, we sell product across the entire country. So that was really my leap, just to do something better and provide more value.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Gene, we didn't get into your entrepreneurial story, so like share a little bit about the businesses you've been involved with, because you've done quite a bit. And this next question is going to be for you, so I'll let you start with a little bit about your background and what got you into entrepreneurship.
You know, entrepreneurship, that title for me, for people who start something from the ground up and a new product, a new service, that sort of thing. I've been more of a kind of like a private equity board, buying businesses, expanding them, scaling them, making them run better than seller, and doing it again, that sort of thing. But I started in the Pizza Hut business. After I got out of graduate school, I came here to work when Pizza Hut was still headquartered here, founded and headquartered here by Wichita State a while. Dan Carter in his bro, and worked here. And one of the first things that I realized, my job was buying back franchisees, because at that time, Pizza Huts weren't delivering pizza. Imagine how long ago that was, okay? So we bought back different markets to develop the delivery business, and then we refranchised it back. What I got to understand was that these franchisees were the most fun-loving, great business people that loved what they did. I said, how do I get on that side of the equation? So I put together a proposal to buy eight Pizza Huts. And I think so that was the start of my entrepreneurial journey. And one of the things that was most challenging early on was how do somebody's never run a restaurant before, take over 8 restaurants, had to come run for me in the Panhandle of Texas. And my wife said, you can go work there. I'm not moving from Wichita. I have all my family here, and that sort of thing. So how do you turn around 8 restaurants that aren't doing well? One of the things that I've tried to do with all the businesses that I own is, how do I create an environment where people feel engaged, involved, and are actually part of the management and the leadership of the business? And so you change compensation the systems for them where they can control different things, and I will punish you off what you control, and you share in the profits, and in turn really turn the business around and enable me to continue to buy other restaurant concepts in that as well. Also in the Marriott hotel business and banking, and really the same formula is it's find these undervalued assets, buy them, bring in our a process and disciplined approach to business, engage our people, and then we'll make the businesses run better and you create value.
Absolutely. And so kind of leading into that, what was the first major challenge that you experienced when we got into those initial 8? What was kind of first like, oh crap, what I just get myself into?
Well, it was they weren't making much money, and that's, and again, you're always looking for undervalued assets to lie. And so how do you turn that around? And the first thing I did was I was in the restaurants. The previous franchisee was kind of an absentee owner, wasn't in the restaurants. The assets were deteriorated some, so we bought new equipment, that sort of thing. But the main thing we started doing was you start engaging the general managers, and we'd have weekly meetings and say, hey, what's working, what isn't, what can we do to help? And I was in the restaurants, make a pizza, clean it. It was all those sort of things. But the main thing I did was say, we're going to put together a bonus system that is easy to understand. It's paid every 4 weeks so that your cost in gigs, and because if you'd have missed this 4 weeks, you got the next one to make money. And it was set up so that very easy to, here's your sales, less your food, less your labor, whatever's left. If you hit a certain target, you get a percentage of that. Well, talk about going from unengaged to engaged. That now they felt like, hey, I get to talk to the owner every week and tell him what's going right, what's going wrong. But more importantly, I'm sharing in the profits of the business. I feel like going over it for I think that's sort of the magic formula all entrepreneurs and business people want to create as an environment where people feel engaged, they feel like they're part of the business, they feel like they're with their owners. It's difficult to do and even more difficult to sustain, but that was the most difficult problem early on, and that you were able to get some traction.
Sherry, this was going to be for you since you were self-proclaimed as the newest entrepreneur on this panel. But talk about that entrepreneurial mindset shift. So you kind of talk about that journey for you to where you shifted over to say, hey, I am an entrepreneur. Kind of walk us through that.
So I have been a part of our business for just under 3 years. And prior to that, I worked for other organizations, several Fortune 500 corporations in engineering, operations management, project management roles. And then I was also in the education space for a while, both as a high school teacher and worked here at the university as a program director. So I've done a variety of things, but I have always, in the back of my mind, really desired to own and operate a business. And I think the shift that I had to make was the willingness to bet on myself and that I could do for the organization that I would own and operate what I was doing for the other organizations, the Fortune 500 companies, and being willing to take that leap and bet on myself. And part of that too was backing away from the image of what entrepreneurial success was that I had built for myself. So when I really got kind of the entrepreneurial bug was when I was here as an undergrad at WSU. And, I wandered into buildings like the original Pizza Hut that's here on campus, founded, like he said, by the Carney brothers. And that's a global brand. Same with Devlin Hall, named after Tom Devlin that founded Rent-A-Center. These are global brands, and those are wonderful entrepreneurship stories, and we are blessed to have a rich entrepreneurial history here at WSU, and those were just a couple of examples. But I also took business classes where I took Entrepreneurship 101, I took Macro and Microeconomics and Marketing 300 and some of these business classes as part of my industrial engineering degree. Industrial engineering is kind of the most business-like engineering, and it kind of ties engineering and the business world together and helps ensure that companies can make their goals. And so I was able to take some of those business classes as technical electives. And you learn things like being first to market and dominating market share. And I had thought that in order to own and operate a business, I had to come up with some very new and novel idea. Then I needed to be first to market, or I needed to do something much better than everybody else in the industry in order to enter the space as an entrepreneur. And now my belief of what success looks like has you could say gotten smaller and richer, but we have a family-owned business with a total of 5 full-time employees, and that includes my husband and I. And success looks like, wow, we've made it 3 years with this business, supporting these 4 different families, including ours, successfully, and continue to be able to operate and take care of our people. And that, to me, is a small miracle and feels really great. And we just have an average small business. We do residential remodeling. There are a lot of companies in Wichita that do what we do. If I would have, and I didn't start the business, my husband had the business for 3 years before I joined. So it was, when I joined it 3 years ago, it was a little bit like I was buying into a business. So it was already operating, and I think that's one of the things that lowered the barrier of entry for me. But if I would have done market research and based my decision on whether or not to enter our business before I did, I would have thought, oh, the market is saturated. There's lots of companies that are doing residential remodeling, and we're not going to be able to make it. And that wasn't the case. And so I let some of those things that I learned in school keep me out of the entrepreneurial space for a long time. They're all good things, but eventually I finally had to just work the Band-Aid off and bet on myself and jump into the entrepreneurial space and see if I can make it work.
You were over-engineering it, no pun intended.
Oh, Andrew.
Well, something that you talked about is, the community we live in here in Wichita is ripe with entrepreneurship, right? With successful entrepreneurs. And one thing that I value when I first moved back to Wichita 10 years ago, I spent some time in Kansas City. I watched a video that talked about you are one phone call away from getting a coffee with somebody in this community. And that's what I value, because when I was making my moves into buying Orange Theory and others I've been involved with, I could reach out to people. I sat down with Gene a couple different times, with Scott Brad, the people who've been in franchising, to learn. I mean, that's one thing that I value about this community is you are always one phone call away from getting a coffee with somebody to learn something. And so that's what I commend. I love this Shocker Central. I mean, there's gonna be so much value from that, be able to connect with people. So anyways, but this question's for Christina. Christina and I've known each other for quite some time, and I've seen your growth. I've seen a lot of things you've gone through, and just very, very proud of what you've accomplished and everything. And it's kind of cool. She used to do my MC for my startup grind, and so now we've kind of reversed our roles here. So it's really cool. But one thing I'd like to ask you is, can you share a moment when persistence really paid off, or when you learned from a failure?
Yeah, absolutely. Persistence is key as an entrepreneur. It absolutely is key. For those of you all who might know my backstory, I was a journalist with Wichita Eagle. In fact, one of my former colleagues is here, Bobby D. And the industry changed, and we had to reinvent ourselves. And so again, if you have a passion and you're in that passion and you see the conditions change, you can either stay and try to struggle through, or you can look up and see what is possible. And so I did look up and saw what was possible. And again, at the core of what it was about is solving a problem with a set of gifts and skills that I had. So I did a stint at Wichita Public Schools, but really what got me was when I looked out at the gifting that was placed in me, and we all have gifts. We all have gifts. Mine is communication. And when I saw so many business owners, startups, nonprofits really struggling with how to get your messaging out, and knowing that I have all of this and I can't use it for the newspaper anymore, I want to be able to put it in the space. And so I started working in the space with entrepreneurs. And when I tell you, on paper, I was a journalist. But when I started looking at solving the problem in the market, that's when I became an entrepreneur, whether I wanted to adopt that persona or not. And I tell you, not having the capital to start up with, not having the title, not having the business classes at all behind what I was doing, I just knew, though, that I value excellence. Excellence is written in anything that I do, and that I love learning. And if I can figure out and take the skill set that I have, surround myself with people who can help pour into me, get lessons learned, and then do my best to grow, then that's what I was gonna do. And I've been able to grow my for-profit company to be able to have incredible clients doing global marketing campaigns for some of the top employers in this city. And I've been able to be persistent in that, regardless if I felt like, or if others felt like this small little communications firm was worthy to be able to have the contracts. We earned the space, we were competitive. If you make a promise to a customer, we made sure to follow it up and follow it through. We kept overhead low. We kept overhead as low as possible and put everything into the business, but also we were very clear about what we needed to make in the business. Because listen, so many entrepreneurs will start out because, what do we hear? I want to be my own boss. We hear that a lot, right? I want to be my own boss. Any good entrepreneur knows that you exchange one boss in the workplace for multiple bosses, and those are your clients, all right? And so if you're exchanging that time for value and trade to be able to solve a problem for your client, then you are making sacrifices in your own personal life in business, and that business needs to perform for you. So we looked at what do we need to make from the business, but then also how did the business need to perform for my household so that we could accomplish our goals. We stayed persistent to the call, and we grew nimble. We pivoted as we needed to, but we stood firm and know here's the capabilities. And then it became our clients who then put more relevance and credibility behind the small firms. Now where we are one of the larger, again, not on paper with the number of employees, but larger in terms of client and customer acquisitions for the work that we do on the CML side. And then it wasn't enough for me to do it for my own company. I looked out and saw a need to be able to do it in a nonprofit way to teach other entrepreneurs how to, again, grow businesses of significance, regardless of how humble your beginnings may be.
Yeah, if you could, that's where. If you haven't taken the time to learn about Create Campaign, highly recommend it. She didn't get to talk deeply about it, but go check out the work that she does with Create Campaign. Amazing work. That's what I know we're mostly through, so definitely check that out. Well, Luke, this question's for you. You're a man of many hats with 5 kids, and I lost count of many businesses that you are in right now. But talk about routine. How do you manage all the different hats that you have, and when you continue to find success in all the different businesses? So talk a little bit about routine and habits that you've built over the time of being an entrepreneur.
That was a really strong answer. Sorry, that was really good. Routine. I get asked that question a lot, and whether it's been as a business owner or even when I was in college and had my first job after college, routine and schedule and putting reps in to figure out the best way to manage my time, manage my schedule, manage my priorities. For me, because a lot of my customers also have my cell phone, and so I don't get called as much as I used to, but there were days when I would get calls at 8 o'clock at night or 2 o'clock on a Saturday when I'm coaching basketball. And it doesn't mean that I had to address them, but that work-life balance, I've never really bought into work-life balance. To me, it's just life. I have a primary aim, I know what my focus is, and I've built that over time. But I work back from that to say, what's most important now? Lou Holtz will, if you've ever heard him speak, he'll say, let's win, what's important now? And so every day I have a routine of, looking at all the possible things that I can invest my time and energy into, and I have to make that decision of what's most important. I do have a routine as far as when I look at email, when I meet with my assistant, what days during the week am I open for any sort of employee meetings in any of the businesses that I'm working on, and which days are open days, meaning days that I'm actually going to work on the business and I'm not taking I'm not taking meetings and I'm not taking phone calls unless they're absolute emergencies, so that I can actually work on the business and not just be a slave to email and regular task work, which frankly is very distracting. I can't be a multitasker if I'm going to make any significant impact. So it's just prioritization, knowing what's important to you and what you're trying to do as an individual, and then aligning what you choose to do every day, whether it's a Monday or a Sunday. Every day I wake up excited to do something, and maybe it's work, maybe it's coaching. It's all the same to me.
I've heard it said this: it's not work-life balance, it's work-life integration. And you balance that, and I don't want people to look at my schedule because it's chaotic, but it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. So do what works for you. This is a way that you can over-engineer, and you can engineer your schedule. Well, Gene, this question is for you. It's around decision making. So you've on this, you're probably one of the most experienced entrepreneurs on this stage with a lot of business you've been involved with. How do you approach big decisions as you built your businesses, exit your business, and just how you approach that?
That's a nice way of saying I'm the old guy. It's up that.
Your hair's looking great though.
I still have some.
The bald guys are around this side.
Decision making for me, I am a process sorting out everything is very regimented. And when you have businesses that you have multiple locations in different states, and it just takes a lot of process and routine, and so the decision making, a lot of that, what we do is we do a lot of planning, a lot of modeling, a lot of that sort of thing, so that the decisions come when you see something that gets out of line. All right, that restaurant is out of line here. This hotel's occupancy is down. This piece of real estate, it's not, it's the rental rates or the occupancy is not what it needs to be. And it's pretty easy to identify those things when you've got a process and routine measurement platforms to do that all the time. And so that's where the focus is. It changes daily. So between planning and then just fixing those issues that pop up. As far as the decisions, we'd make a lot of those beforehand, but one of the things that I try to do and try to instill in our people is that you always tackle those decisions that are the hardest. You don't put them aside. That's the first thing you focus on each day, is the ones that are really difficult, because we tend to always want to procrastinate. Now, I really don't want to have that discussion with that manager or that person, but those are the things that it just takes a lot of willpower to say, hey, wow, this is the best decision for my business. This is going to make the most impact for this business, either succeeding or failing, if I tackle these issues first. And just, I'd always be prepared. I always tell my folks, if you're going to have a meeting, you better be the most prepared for that. If you're going to call a meeting, you're going to be the most prepared. That means you're going to have an agenda, you're going to have a timeline, and you're going to have objectives to get out of that. Because if you don't, it's a waste of time. And so that's literally our decision-making process. Is just finding the discrepancies that are out there and then focusing on the ones that make the most impact.
Yeah, I once had a mentor tell me, don't crab on my floor and don't tell me how you're going to pick it up. And I know that sounds a little risky, like or scary, but like that was truth. I mean, it was one to where don't come in and tell me a problem and don't tell me how you're going to pick it up. So that's stuck with me a lot, is that, and I'm bringing things to, whether it be my business partners, my family, those sort of things. This one's going to be on Luke again, of coming back over on this side, on innovation. We talked a little bit about, when we were prepping for this, and about AI and a lot of things. What, I got to find the question I have. What's one way you've intentionally sparked innovation in your business and or your team?
So by the time we entered the industry in the digital sign industry, and we were 10 years behind from capitalizing on being first to market. And you would think that the technology of digital signs, that there's been a lot of innovation and advancements. There hasn't over the last 20 years. I mean, the quality and the visual quality has improved, but from like construction and how it's built, there hasn't been a lot of innovation. And so as we grappled with, well, do we make a new product, which we did in 2020 and made a small innovation in the marketplace, but it's not like revolutionary, it's not disruptive, but it certainly has helped us. We started looking at software, and so digital signs, selling hardware, we had been doing okay with that, and we decided to go create our own software platform that had some new tools to try to innovate in that space, the area where customers would live every day with their signs as a sign owner. And so we invested some resources and time and thought into creating a new tool that couldn't be found anywhere else in the marketplace. And so we started Project Content. It's a software that does drive next LED digital displays, but we sell that software to other people across the country. And so when we started, we created some very cool and usable, valuable design tools that are very much like Canva. And I probably should have started Canva instead of Project Content, but it's very similar. And 6-7 years ago, it was very revolutionary and there was nothing like it. And there still isn't in our industry. But now guess what happens? AI shows up. And I've been reading about it and thinking about it for 5 years. And so even when ChatGPT started 3 years ago, we had already had conversations in our business. And it was, I'm looking at my designers who are like 25 years old and they went to school for graphic design, and I'm like, I got to help these people out because the world's about to change and we're just at the beginning of that change. And so I started challenging them to think about how do we create tools utilizing this technology that's going to be coming so that it doesn't take your job, but that we stay ahead of that curve, not only to help them as individuals so that they can broaden their skill set. And I don't think that I'm going to have to let anybody go, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be hiring anybody else. And so challenging them to embrace that technology and be thinking creatively on how it can help them, not just in their day-to-day business, but how we can create products. So over the last year and a half, we've been really aggressively finishing up development of a new tool that's like an AI marketing assistant that utilizes AI tools. We're not creating AI, we're just creating the automations, the flows, the integrations of all the tools that people way smarter than us are making. And so that's, it's a combination of one, challenging your employees to be innovative where it matters most to them, and then also innovating for your customers and creating more value with whatever you're creating.
Well, Jared, this question's for you. You'd mentioned a little bit about, making an entrepreneurial mindset, but talk to us about, you were in a traditional job, you were in the corporate world. How in the word entrepreneur is kind of thrown around to people that are entrepreneurial in an organization. Kind of talk through that, with somebody in a traditional job, what's something entrepreneurial that they can, like a mindset shift they can have and they can apply, tomorrow in their work.
I think one of the most helpful mindset shifts would be that indecision is worse than wrong decision. And learning that oftentimes if you do nothing because you're deciding, that's a decision. If you take too long, indecision can be significantly worse than wrong decision. And sometimes you have to do it imperfectly and just get it done. That, in my opinion, in our business applies more to the business management things, like with marketing. We just launched a new website and it's not perfect, but it's out there now. And we can continue to iterate. And in the past, I think I would have waited until it was completely how I wanted it to launch it, but we needed a online storefront. And I think for employees that are still working in a traditional role, if they can start to, I think, push themselves to make decisions a little more fast, a little quicker, and maybe before they're ready or before things are exactly perfect, that, to me, that would be good preparation for moving into the entrepreneurial space. And obviously, a quality standard, you don't want to apply a university quality standard to everything you do. Some things need to be perfect, or darn close, but not everything has to be done to that level. Can it be 80%? And starting to gauge what things can be done at 80%, and can I move on? And oftentimes, I will say the person that makes that decision to do something at 80% instead of what they would deem 100% is the only one that's going to know that it was done at 80% and not 100%.
I love that. It sounds a lot like, ask for forgiveness, not for permission, giving them those guardrails to be able to go take those risks. I think it takes a leader in an organization to be able to give them that ability to go take those risks too, as well. We talked a little bit about networking and community, and so I want to throw this over to Christina. So how has, building relationships and networking really impacted your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, excuse me, absolutely. It's been cornerstone and key to my entrepreneurial journey. Just real quickly, how many of you are entrepreneurs, like right now? All right, very well. How many of you all are thinking about it? You're like, yeah, maybe. How many, it's okay, be low, thank you. How many are entrepreneurial? You're inside a job? That's right, absolutely. How many of you all are ready to exit this thing called entrepreneurship? We did it, we're all throughout, no matter what space you find yourself in along that continuum, relationships are key. And for one of the best pieces of advice, and I have so many great quotes and stories of inspiration for people, but we've heard that saying, it's not what you know, but who you know. That sounds familiar, right? This was the game changer for me. It's who knows you. So again, not what you know, but who you know. But it really is about who knows you. And the thing about it is, when you consider who knows you, they're advocates for you. They will open up the doors for opportunity that you can absolutely work and get towards, but maybe it takes a little bit more time to do that. So when you're able to inspire someone to open up a door, a connection, a relationship, a coffee, a connection, a resource, Then they believe in you, and what you do when you step through that door will keep that door open, and then you have a responsibility to turn it around and open that door for somebody else. But relationships matter. You mentioned about Create Campaign. So real quickly, Create Campaign is a nonprofit organization that I did found that provides access and opportunity to entrepreneurs. And we do it by workshops, trainings. We have access to business capital and funding. But I tell you, the work that we do, we're 9 women strong now in our organization, 9 strong women. There's a lot of guys who help support the work as well. But here, we're able to do great and punch beyond our weight class because we have powerful partners who are at the center of opening up doors of opportunity, and also not just doors that already exist, they're ready to come with their hammers and their nails and build something different too. So we're able to help a broader group of entrepreneurs who, like myself, nobody would have counted me an entrepreneur on paper when they first met me. But here I am, again, doing the work and helping others do the work so that we're building collectively together. And I tell you, it's not just the relationships of people pouring into one another and ourselves, we get to pour into one another as well. Just because you're a day 1 entrepreneur versus a day 360, there are lessons in and between all of those minutes and seconds that we carry the work that we do. So having the disposition to humble ourselves, understand when it's time to learn, when it's time to listen, when it's time to lead, really letting connections and people be also at the heart of what we do. People will move mountains for you, and then you will be inspired to move mountains for others.
No, that's powerful. And I think that's what you're talking about is paying it forward. Absolutely. And I think that's what, if somebody opens the door for you, open the door for somebody else. And I think that is how we continue to build this entrepreneurial community, and just the community in general, is continue to open doors for others. It doesn't take much to send a quick text message, send a quick email, open the door and really listen to people and what they're truly need. So Christina, I think great what you do. All right, this one I'm gonna throw over to Dean, and it's around again, back on the decision making, but what's some smart, low cost decisions you made early that have made a big impact in your businesses?
How Christina mentioned it earlier is we are fanatical about keeping our overhead, our general administration costs really low. How we find the cheapest office space whenever in any place that we're operating the business in, because it's never certainly the assets when you're hotels and restaurants, so it's big investments there. But if you create the right environment, office space really becomes not that beautiful. The other thing that I've done as an owner is over the years I paid myself a salary, and it was just a salary enough to where I know I could take care of my family. That's nothing more than that. And whatever else, all the funds that the business generated would go to pay down debt and reinvest in the business. And then and if there was something left over, and that's when I distribute, shareholder dividends or profits to myself. So that's always been really key is to operate and it's with as lean a staff as possible. Now, you can go too far on that too. And the few times I had where we didn't have enough staff, or I did when we first started a business, I did everything. I did HR, marketing. I signed every accounts receivable check, every payroll check, and it was. And those were 15, 18-hour days, but it's just something that you had to do to get by and save capital for your people and your assets and that sort of thing. So quick, easy way to do it is just maintain your costs low, and then there'll be a time where you can splurge a little bit and I have a little nicer offices now, but it took a while. So but keeping that mindset of, hey, I'm not funding my lifestyle and my offices. I'm funding the businesses where our people work and where we have to have great equipment and great assets for them to do their jobs.
All right, this is gonna be the last question. This will be up for everyone on the panel to answer, and then we'll open up to the crowd for some questions. So, if you could go back to day one of your entrepreneurial journey, what advice would you give yourself? All at once.
Invest in Bitcoin. I'll go back to 2011, not 1987. I was too hard on myself when sales weren't happening, or customers weren't buying into what we were trying to do with our product and services. And so some of that doubt had me one foot out the door, thinking about I could be working at Coke or Cessna and doing a lot more and making more money and not having to deal with the headaches or frustrations. And then it also caused us to pivot way too many times in the early days, which we got away from our core beliefs and what we were going to do with our products and our company. And so what we're doing today is exactly what I dreamed up 15 years ago. But those first 7 or 8 years, there was a lot of left and right turns just to get back to the same spot. And so I think some of that came from fear, some of it came from doubting myself. And so I would have said, trust yourself, just stick with it. Trust the process if you're a Philadelphia 76ers fan. And then the last thing I would tell myself is talk to people. I would say this is probably the most important thing that I would share with my journey is in my first 7 years, when the highs were high, when we were crushing it, they were high. And when they were low, they were low. And so for me, mentally, spiritually, physically, I rode those highs and I rode those lows. And that made my life chaotic, and it certainly made my family's life chaotic. And it took me 7 or 8 years before I was like, I gotta go talk to somebody. I gotta really go get myself straightened out. Because if I don't get myself straightened out, then the businesses are gonna burn and then the family's gonna burn, and that just doesn't sound like a good picture to me. So trust yourself, make sure that you got your head right and that you're around the right people and that you're taking care of yourself, and just be true to what you set out to do, even if you have to pivot a few times.
And when I first started, Londa was, I had a 2-year-old and she was 3 months pregnant. And I came home and I asked her, hey, what do you think about going out, quit my job at Pizza Hut, which was at then, Fortune 500 company as the division of Pepsi. Great salary, benefits, that sort of thing. And it become Pizza Hut franchisee. And so looked at me. And what she said was, well, what's the worst that can happen? And quite frankly, we use that terminology in any business that we look at to buy or sell is what's the worst that can happen with this place? And see about. And then I told her we could keep one car in our house, that we go bankrupt, because I'd looked at the bankruptcy laws. I trying to plan forward from that. But what happened was I started Community Amarillo for the first 7 or 8 years. And so I actually missed the birth of my second daughter because I was in Amarillo, Texas, taking care of business. And I do think there is a work-life balance that people have to understand what that is for them. And I did get out of balance. It was 15, 18-hour days. I was gone 5 days a week. I'd come back on weekends and leave again. And those are years I can't ever get back. Now, did it help the business be very successful? Yeah, it did. I was there. I was present. We grew tremendously, and it all worked out very well. But you just got to be careful about that balance. And what I wish I would have done was to set up front, sit down and say, all right, what's most important to me? Is it my family? Is it the business? And on the business side, what does success look like? I mean, because I see some folks are very satisfied if they have, 5 restaurants. And I see some who have 400 who are never satisfied. And at some point, you've got to make that determination. All right, what is enough? How much business do I want? I know how many employees, how much money do I want to make? And for each of us, it's very different. But you don't want to do is start chasing the money, because that's when you can really get out of balance. You can start making bad decisions by just always chasing that thought.
Balance is very important. I would go back and tell myself a lot of things, but 3 important ones for here today. Take care of your health. Take care of your health. I ruined my health in entrepreneurship because it wasn't 18-hour days for me. Sometimes it was 24 hours, literally. I would have what's called go time. I'm the mother of 3. They're older now. But go time lasted 3 weeks one time, and my kids were like, no, what is go time? Don't talk to mom. Head down, she's got to push through. And go time lasted 3 weeks, and my kids said, no, that's enough. So that's 1, take care of your health. 2, because of those humble beginnings, because of where I grew up and all those things, because excellence is part of what my parents instilled in us, having to prove that I was worthy, that now I'm not a journalist, I am a business person, right? And so in proving, I did not price correctly. I priced trying to be the underdog, and there's always gonna be someone who can bid lower than you. It's a race to the bottom. I didn't price for value. And so when we talked about making it work for our households, it didn't necessarily initially fully work for my household. And that was aggravating on top of go time. And then I wasn't still taking care of myself. So imagine all of those compounding things, right? Know what your price needs to be, know the value as well that you bring. And once you have a portfolio that you can stand on and get more work into, don't apologize for needing to go and bid and price and all of those things with a value that you deserve and that your work demands and requires. The last thing, in go times, in apologizing and trying to build this massive portfolio, which now has allowed me to do what I get to do now. I was able to retire my parents, and that is amazing. That is amazing. And some other things. I didn't take care of my friendships. I became a robot. We talk about systems. Oh, your girl can system it all out. I got systems for days. But I did not value my friendships because there was no time. And so my friends, though, the real friends, they held me up and understood she's disappeared. And they didn't ask, how are you doing? They asked, what time did you go to sleep? Value your friendships. Allow yourself to be fully human as an entrepreneur, not just a producer. We are people. And so I'm grateful now that that hustle then and that building then allows me now to be able to understand and pour in and make decisions. But I'm 45. And while a lot of my hashtag design in my decade, it was powerful. I got a lot of stuff done in my 30s, but sometimes I wondered the cost. And now that I'm in my 40s, I won't allow myself to get back in the space of some of the lessons that I should have learned from day one or told myself from day one. So that's vulnerable, but I mean that. Take care of yourself, take care of your relationships, friendships. Don't apologize, build your portfolio, but price for what you need, not just pricing hello, price for value.
Charity, take us home.
I was trying to be polite by letting Christina go first, but then I was like, why did I try to follow her? This is a terrible decision. Note to self. So I would say I would advise myself to figure out what knowledge is really core to the type of business that I'm in and focus on learning that stuff, but delegate everything else. And what that really tactically looked like for me on day one was I had a friend that was offering a business in a day package because she had all the skills to be able to sit down with a client and design a logo, build them a website, take professional photos, get them all set up on social media handles, like get all of that solved for them literally in a day. She had a package deal to do that, and I was aware of that when I came into our business. And it was a significant investment to me. And I left my 9-to-5 with a severance package because they were doing they were cost cutting and offering basically people severance packages to leave the company, and it was a significant chunk of that. And I thought, oh, surely I can do this stuff myself. I did not need to learn how to design a logo on my own and go out and benchmark everybody else's logos. I went down like a 2-week rabbit hole right out of the gate just trying to get my logo designed. I pulled the plug on that really fast, and I was like, this is not what I need to be focusing on. And I tabled it, and I went and started focusing on, we own a remodeling company. Let me get into like, what are the key things about this remodeling business, and let me get on the job sites and get, so I would say don't try to do everything yourself just because you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur. It's okay to hire things done, especially if it's not core to your business. We didn't have an online business. I didn't need to be the one designing my website. I should have delegated that. So I think so you don't run yourself ragged and put yourself out of business early on trying to do it all yourself. Figure out what you need to delegate, pay other people to do, and what you really need to know and understand, and give yourself a break. And don't try to do it all yourself, because you will be working unlimited hours and drive yourself into the ground really quickly. You do have to take care of your health and make sure that you go at a pace that is sustainable for you so you don't burn out real fast.
Let's give this panel a round of applause. All right, we got time for probably 1 or 2 questions. If you got one, I can bring the mic to you. Anybody got a question for the panel?
Hello, everyone. What do most people misunderstand about scaling a business?
Well, it's difficult, but it typically takes a lot of time and capital. But that's literally how we grew. Was we found franchise models that we really liked, or we scaled within that model. Was basically pizza and hotels. And once the interesting thing about when you're in the franchise business is that when you have one success in one of the franchise models, it's a lot easier to get into the others. Started a Pizza first, and then married out. We had Burger Kings for a while. Got out of that business pretty quickly. And this is 25 years ago when they were growing very well. So, but it is it's mainly about conserving capital so that you can both build and acquire, and processes are critical. Your processes and making sure you have a talented bench, so that when you are acquiring, it's typically have to come in and replace a lot of the general managers or the operators in these hotels or wilderness or restaurants. How you want to place people, as well. So, and that's expensive, having to keep an advance. But it's also always great that you can continue to grow businesses if your people think that, okay, what next the market are they going to go to next, and what's new hotel are you going to build? So I'll have it. I'm going to stick around here as an assistant manager because I think I could get that general manager's job in the next one that they build. So it's a real fine balance, and it just takes a lot of process, capital, and making sure you take care of your people, especially the good ones, so that you can move them into those businesses when you see.
They're bus toots.
All right, Josh, you gonna take us home? All right.
All right, well, let's give another round of applause for our lovely panel.